Now a story of unlikely abundance in a land known for hunger and the questions that's raising. Special correspondent Fred DeSam Lazaro reports.
For decades, Ethiopia has been synonymous with chronic famine and hunger. Even today, at least 5 million people depend on food aid to survive. But a growing number of foreign investors are discovering a little-known fact about this East African nation. Ethiopia has vast acres of fertile, arable land.
I want to welcome you all, in particular our guests from Japan and Pakistan and India.
Recently in the capital, Addis Ababa, local officials for a Saudi investor announced a partnership to vastly expand a commercial farm in western Ethiopia, aiming to produce 1 million tons of rice per year.
For us, it is a cornerstone. I think others will follow as well.
Others will likely come, and still others have already come. Over the past 2 years, by some estimates, 50 million acres of African farmland was leased to foreigners, most from the Middle East and Asia, for up to 99 years. That's about twice the arable land in all of Germany. The cost to lease land in Ethiopia is cheap, and there's lots of it. So why aren't local farmers growing more? Esayas Kebede with the government's Agriculture Investment Agency says they use only a fraction of the 180 million acres of land and lack the technology needed.
The productivity is very low due to technology. Most of our farmers are plowing with ox.
That's in sharp contrast to the carefully irrigated and fertilized commercial farms, like this one owned by a Saudi group. It raises specialized crops, melons, green beans, radishes, artichokes. 300 people work here. Most are subsistence farmers themselves, and for some, employment has improved life, even allowed for a bit of dreaming.
Previously, we couldn't afford vegetables. It used to be a novelty. Now we eat them regularly. I would like to invest in my kids' education. I never forgotten education. That's why I'm in the state I'm in today.
I'm continuing to receive knowledge. If I'm lucky enough to get married, I'll start a family and hopefully with some seed money, start a farm like this one.
There's one big problem that some economists and government opponents see with all of this. They say the benefit to ordinary Ethiopians is minimal. To begin, all of the produce is intended for supermarkets in rich countries, in this case Dubai. Merera Gudina is a political science professor and member of the opposition Omoro People's Party. He likens it to a colonial arrangement.
Food is grown on your land, and you simply see but don't eat where it is going. It's not for the local consumption.
He says the government of longtime Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, who took power in 1992, has given land away to favored investors, that it hasn't arranged for proper compensation, bolstered employment, or managed to keep some of the food at home.
For example, proper compensation to the local people, in terms of bringing real employment to the local people, and also in terms of retaining the food, some of the food for the internal consumption.
Instead, he says commercial farms displace small peasant growers and herders. He cited a 17,000-acre farm near the western town of Bako. It's been leased to an Indian company which is planting corn. These small farmers say this development has come entirely at their expense.
How many people used to farm on land that is now farmed by the commercial farm?
Wedajo Gobana spoke for the group.
This land has been in our families for centuries. We were growing oil seeds, tafe, and grain for our animals to sustain ourselves. They offer jobs only to those who would accept 10 beer. They raised it from 7 beer.
That wage, fairly common on commercial farms, is well below $1 a day. And even though it's more than most subsistence farmers earn, these men say it's hardly enough to improve life in their impoverished community.
They swindled us. They promised roads, schools, water, and whatnot. But the only evidence we saw is when they wanted this piece of land for a road, they came in with excavators and created huge mounds. It was extremely muddy, and it was hard to get around.
The company declined to participate in this story. However, the government's Kebede took strong issue with allegations that people are being kicked off their land.
It is false. It is false.
Kebede says for the most part the government is leasing acres that have never been farmed. He also argues that the open market has already caused wages to rise on some commercial farms. And he says you can't ask profit-oriented investors to work in development to tackle a community's social problems. That's a joint responsibility, he says.
Because, the investor is not coming for heaven. They are coming for profit. Our problem is resolved by our community. The problem is resolved by our government. The development is coming jointly with the community, with the government, with the investor.
Nebiyu Samuel, spokesman for a prominent Saudi investor, agrees.
I'll be very frank. At the outset I said we are here, to do business.
However, he says his company's investments will bring lots of development benefits, new infrastructure, for example, in a country that sorely needs it.
Recently, we just ordered close to 1,000 trucks from Volvo, and we're going to be utilizing it, hopefully, to transport this production. People are going to get involved in that sector. And then the other, attending, jobs, around that, the fuel suppliers, the food suppliers, the restaurant man, the hotel man. I mean, it's immense in terms of employment and job opportunities. And this is where people can really think positive rather than saying, money is coming from outside.
Many experts say Africa's vast pastures could be the world's next breadbasket. They say the world's supply of arable land is dwindling due to urban development, climate changes, and soil degradation. Lamourdia Thiombiano of the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says African land leases could work if handled correctly.
So this is a potential win-win situation, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
But he says the history of deals with foreigners for natural resources in Africa is not reassuring.
They don't respect, for instance, the indigenous living conditions. They don't treat the people who are in this land appropriately. They don't have any gain. All the timbers and all the goods are removed from the forest, destroying the environment, polluting the land, the water.
His agency is drawing up a code of conduct to make such farmland deals more equitable to all parties. The document will merely be advisory, but he says it will shine a spotlight on the biggest scramble for African land since this continent was colonized.
Fred's report is part of our collaboration with the Project for Undertold Stories at St. John's University in Minnesota and the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting.